Today we're looking at Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from hence comes my help. This is one of deliverance. This is one of I need help. My help comes from the Lord, which made the heavens and the earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee shall not slumber. If he is on your side and he is watching over you, he will not slumber, he will not sleep. The Lord is my keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Using those figurativisms of day and night there, that God is with you always. He shall preserve thee from all evil. He will preserve thy soul. The Lord will preserve thy going outs and comings in from this time and even forevermore. He is the one that keeps us. Sometimes we feel like we're not being kept. When he allows us to be touched by the world, he allows us to be touched by things, that's not a sign of abandonment. You look at I don't know if the person who did this ever read the book of Job. Can't tell it. It might have. But there is an idea of God sustaining. It might not be to the level that we see, but are we completely desolate? Are we completely destroyed? Do we not have manna? Do we not have our sustenance? If that answer is yes, then you have God on your side. There's some people that lose their sustenance and lose their jobs and lose their lives. So looking at 121 here gives us more perspective about where we are, even if it feels like we're in struggle. I will lift up my eyes to the hills of Zion, to Jerusalem, to the spiritual Jerusalem. It isn't just to any hills. I'm looking to someone other than myself, and that someone is Jehovah. Very good sermon, very good psalm. I was going to say that there are many sermons that have come from this. I will lift up mine eyes. And the choice is up to you. I will lift up. God's not going to force you to see him in the situation. We have to choose to lift up our eyes. Going on to 2 Samuel. We finished with that David had gone ahead, and we know that Saul has been killed. And he finds out through this person, this Amalekite comes and thinks he's doing himself a favor by telling David that he killed God's anointed. He killed the king. You should be on my side. You should be happy that I did this to your enemy. But David just the opposite. He goes, why were you not afraid to stretch your hand against God's anointed? Come near and fall upon him. And the young men that were with David smote this man. He laments over them with a beautiful lament. Read that again, how his heart is just breaking. And he sees them both as beautiful. He never saw Saul, as I've seen it, as an enemy. Sometimes we think of two enemies that hate one another. Their faces are grim to one another and their fierce countenance. He never had that. He always had this loving, I'm a flea, I'm a dog. Why is someone as wonderful as you, as powerful as you, chasing me around? And you see that. The beautiful words, Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. Beautiful imagery. Beautiful words here. O daughters of Israel, weep over Saul. He clothed you in scarlet. He gave you the best. Your sustenance and the goodness of your life came from this wonderful man. So again, he's only saying wonderful things, and he's not doing that kind of more plastic thing we do, is come up with something good to say with somebody at a sermon, at a funeral. He actually felt this way for these two men. It's interesting to see this. Look over it again, how the mighty have fallen. And he's not saying that in some abstract, you are Satan and you're horrible. The mighty have fallen. He becomes king of Judah, and he will reign in Judah for 7 years. Ishbosheth, one of the sons of Saul, not all the sons of Saul were killed, but one of them's put in as a puppet leader by a fellow named Abner, and he is from the camp of Saul. And he's not really a bad man. We see Abner, he's just a political man. He's a military leader. It's very possible from what we see of his actions that he actually believed that Saul was the king, and you're being honorable to the king. Even David uses Abner's honorableness against him. And when he says, Abner, you haven't been looking out for your king. So Ishbosheth comes in, and we also meet Joab, and he turns into a bit of a trickster when we see things going. He's more of the guy later on we'll see that plays the political game back and forth to his own advantage. He has two brothers, Abishai and Asahel. Asahel is murdered by Abner. And that creates a problem with these two mighty captains. You have the kings, then you have these captains, these powerful men. And they are now at an out because one has murdered the other's brother. And chapter 3 says, and there was a long war. It was hot and cold. There was always tension between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David grew stronger as he's down in Judah, and he's getting stronger politically. He's getting stronger with people, and he has more children. He has 6 children within these 2 years that Ishbosheth is king. Of course, he has concubines. It's not 1 or 2 women having all these kids. So he has 6 kids. We meet them all, and we'll recognize ones that we would recognize: Amnon, and then we also see Absalom. So they'll come back to play a very important role in his future. He has 6 of them there. And Saul has a concubine, and Abner goes into this concubine, and this makes Ishbosheth unhappy. After all, Ishbosheth is the king. Ishbosheth is the one who should be with the concubine, but for some reason, I think that she fancied him, or Abner fancied her, and he's on the out. And Abner goes into her. Ishbosheth confronts him with it, and he gets very angry. Abner gets angry and says, "Am I a dog's head that against Judah to show kindness today towards the house of Saul? I'm showing kindness to the house of Saul, and here you're not showing kindness and respect to me." You get the idea that I think Ishbosheth was a weak ruler. He couldn't even, get with the concubine of the king. That should have been the king's, is actually going to the more powerful man, and that's Abner. And so he goes now, he's going to change sides. And to this, friends, and have I not delivered thee into the hands of David, and thou chargest me today with the falsehood of this woman? So do God to Abner, and more so, except as God has shown to David, even so I do to him, to translate the kingdom from the house of Saul and to the throne of David over Israel. Now he's going to go in. He realizes that this is a weak king. David is the strong king. David's the king that God is going to unite Israel with. So he's going to go and now make a pact and make allegiances with David. So we see the 2 kingdoms coming closer and closer together. And he says, I'll make a league with him. Thou shalt not see my face, except that first I'll bring Michal, the Saul's daughter. David says this to Abner: you can't come see me till I get my first wife, the one that I bought with the foreskins. So Abner is leaving Ishbosheth. He has sent messengers to David. He wants to create a covenant with him, an agreement with him, but he's going to have to bring back this woman. So he goes and takes this woman, Michal, from her husband that Saul had given her to, and now he's going to give her to David. Now the problem is, when she gets back to David, this has been, what, at least 3-5 years. She's not #1 queen anymore. Now there's 2, even 4 other women in this household. This is going to be a problem, as we'll see later. I think this is one of the reasons why she has disdain for him when he dances, that she feels rejected. I'm kind of reading a little bit in here, but you kind of have to, when you're doing the grid work here, you can draw connections as long as those connections are consistent. If you're seeing consistencies with character or consistencies with common human nature, it's okay to draw those inferences, And if you find something you drew an inference and it doesn't hold, that's fine. It doesn't change anything of importance. It's when you tell people what to think, that's where we create problems in Christianity. When you show them the evidence of where you're drawing much of your insight, they can look at the grid work. They can be evidentiary Christians. They can be forensic Christians and go, yeah, I can see where if a woman comes back into a household and she was #1, now she's #5. Not good. And so he goes and gets her and gives her to David. And Abner goes and communicates, and he talks to Israel about getting back. And he goes, you saw it for David in past times to be king over you. Now it's a time to do this. Then do it. I love what he says there. Here's a man of action. I really do like Abner. I'm sorry to see what's going to happen to him soon. But he's a man. Let's do it. Let's make him king. The Lord has spoken to David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people out of the hands of the Philistines and out of the hands of his enemies. Let's do this. Let's go take this man and make him our king. Abner also spake in the ears of Benjamin, which is just north, And this is also has the family of Saul there. He's not excluding Saul to create some kind of riff or political difference. He's gonna be the whole Israel. That includes Benjamin. So Abner also speaks in the ears of David at Hebron, and this seemed good. Now David's in Hebron here. We don't see Jerusalem coming into play yet. We've had Hebron is in play. So, but the temple or the Ark of the Covenant is still over in Kirjath Jearim. Remember when it came back? We all going all the way back to the book of Judges, when the Philistines had their hemorrhoid problems and when they had the rat problems, and they sent it away on a cart, and it went down to some men in Bethshan. They looked into it. They had problems, so they sent it off. They called the men of Kirjath Jearim. And Kirjath Jearim, those men, and that's where the Ark of the Covenant is sitting right now. I mean, was sitting at the time of David. So we aren't even thinking about the temple. We're not even thinking about Jerusalem as the centerpiece yet. We've gone from Shiloh down to the Philistines, then up and over to Kirjath Jearim. So that's where it's sitting. And now David has been in Hebron. He has not yet made Jerusalem is nothing more than just another city among all the other cities. It has not been established as any kind of cultural or political significance yet. So Abner goes, and he wants to create this league, and he's getting Benjamin, he's getting Israel behind it. I will arise and go. And so he goes and meets with David in peace. And behold, the servants of David's Joab, they were pursuing a troop. They came back, and Abner had met with David, creating this peace, and now Abner was gone. But Joab sees Abner, and it says here that the servants of David and Joab were pursuing a troop, and they brought in great spoil. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he had gone in peace. There was no anonymity between David and Abner. Then Joab and all the host that was with him came by. They told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Nun had come to the king. Joab confronts David and says, why are you listening to Abner? He's a trickster. You know, why is he done? You've sent him away and he's gone. Thou knowest Abner the son of Ner has come to deceive thee, and to know thy goings in and thy goings out, and to know what was best. See, Joab is now thinking that Abner is being insincere, that Abner's a trickster, that Abner is only here to see how strong you are. But David realizes the character of Abner and wants this reconciliation that Abner's even taking to the elders of Israel. It's also a thing here that Joab is probably still angry that Abner killed his brother. So Joab sends out after Abner, without David's knowing it, and sends out messengers to Abner and says, come back in, we got more to talk about, come back in. So Abner comes back in, and Joab takes him to the side, like he's going to tell him something, and then he stabs him to death. And Abner dies. Afterwards, when David heard of it, he says, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord for the blood of Abner. Let it rest on the head of Joab and his father's house. He knew what Joab had done. He said, let the blame fall where it blames. I was not behind this. I love the very rest of this chapter. When I talked earlier about the lament of Saul by David, we see a lament here of Abner. That David is not looking at the evil or destructiveness, or he's my enemy, or he stood with Saul, and Saul, all this harshness. He has good things to say about Abner. He saw Abner as a good man trying to reconcile and bring Israel together. And for the protection of Israel, it was important that Israel not break up, because then they would be destroyed by these nations around them and the Amalekites. David said to Joab, rend your clothes and gird you with sackcloth and mourn before Abner. And the king himself mourned, and they buried Abner in Hebron. So he buries Abner in his hometown. And he laments for Abner, and all the people do. And he said, oh, Abner had died a fool's death. Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet unto fetters. As a man falleth before wicked men, so fellest thou. And all the people wept. And all the people came to David to cause to eat meat. And David said, so do God to me, and more so, if I taste bread or aught till the sun goes down. He's fasting and mourning for this man. And all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them. So whatsoever the king did, it pleased all the people. They were pleased to see their king being righteous to this man, not just attributing some kind of violence or, well, that was my enemy. Good thing, I'm glad that happened to him. Or, oh, well, he got killed. Big deal. You know, the sword consumes who it's going to consume. He was murdered. He was murdered in a very, it said, foolish way, in a very unnecessary way. He didn't die in battle, and that's probably how, this man should have died, or he should have died as old age, seeing the reconciliation of Israel that he had helped be a part of. And all the people saw and understood that this was not of the king. And the king said to his servants, know ye not that as a prince and a great man has fallen this day? I am this day weak, though anointed king, and these men are the sons of Zeruiah, which are Joab and his brothers. The Lord will reward the doer of wicked according to his wickedness. Now we see, that one fell off my tongue horribly. The Lord will reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. That actually happens. Later on, we find Joab paying for this sin and his other sins specifically. And so I'm believing it happens in the time of Solomon. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that far down the line, when David has a son and Solomon takes the throne, he tells Solomon, here's some loose ends you need to take care of. And he sends Solomon out, and I believe, and I'll do my research, if I'm wrong, I'll tell you tomorrow, but Joab was among those that had did wrong and needed some vengeance, needed some justice for what they'd done. One guy was, I believe his name was Shimei, where he cursed the king. And later on, he has Solomon take care of the issue that this man cursed the king, and nothing was ever done about it. There's another person that he took care of, but I believe Joab also found that at that time, hey, Joab has done this and nothing was ever done about it. You need to make that right in justice. God is a God of justice. We have to remember that. Jesus even said that you reap what you sow. We need to be careful what we do and what we say, even though, okay, we're Christians and we'll be okay. Everything will be all right with us. We need to honor the Lord. But here, Joab was dishonorable, and I see Abner as an honorable man. It's very possible he was a very good man who was honorable to the king. He kept the king. He was trying to do what he thought was best for Israel for 2 whole years, but this new man was just not going to cut it. We need God's man. And I think Abner was in the right, Joab's in the wrong, and we'll see what the future has for Joab, and it won't be good. Thank you.